The Global Championship LAN is in less than 2 weeks, and we now have 8 different pros who aren't able to attend because of visa issues. Most notably, Vanya, the FNCS champion on EU, who is supposed to be contesting Peterbot. This is having huge switch-ups for the map, and then we now have entire duos like Rise and Ages going to the LAN despite not even qualifying because there is so much drama going on with their different duos. I also want to talk about the Monarch pistol being buffed, but why it's only a temporary buff, and then Epic's going to change it in a future update. They've never done this with a gun before. It's super weird. I'm going to explain exactly what's happening. Before we get into talking about what's going on with Globals and pros not going and all that crazy, let's talk about the update Fortnite made yesterday to the Monarch pistols. It seems like the second wave of updates they've made now with different weapons. They have technically buffed the Monarch pistol, but it's not straight buff. It's kind of like a readjustment. So instead of the Monarch pistol now having the ADS damage multiplier, which means when you aim down sights, you do more damage, they've taken this away, but they basically just buffed the damage of the gun completely. Outside of this, in my opinion, just making it better. It's basically a mini DMR now. So instead of having a fire rate multiplier, the damage has gone from at gold rarity from 49 to 81 body shot, so it's almost double the body shot, and then headshot has gone from 83 at gold rarity to 138. Now obviously when you ADS you had that 70% damage boost. You don't have that, but if it's hitting 138 headshots without that boost, that is ridiculous. And the fire rate has been nerfed. It's gone from 2.4 down to 1.5. so basically this is a mini DMR. It's shooting slightly faster than the DMR and it's dealing more damage than the DMR. At purple and gold rarity with the Monarch pistol, you can now hit a headshot and a body shot and deal 200 damage. This thing is insane, but it gets a little bit weirder. Fortnite status didn't mean to make this change, and they're gonna revert it, but in a future update, which is on September 4th. Let me explain why that is. I was confused at first as well. The issue with the Monarch pistol damage multiplier was if you aim down sights and you shot the bullet, but you stopped looking down your sights and the bullet hit, it wouldn't do the multiplied damage, it would do the regular damage, and this isn't what Fortnite wanted. So they've now implemented this change to make it kind of work the way they want, but not really until they fix that bug. But they can't do it until a game update, which is 4th of September, which is before the LAN event, thankfully, but we are going to have a bunch of cash cups in this time. And the Monarch pistol is now just like a buff deagle. It has very little damage drop off, and now it hits, again, it's harder than a DMR, and all it does is take mini ammo. So this is going to be an absolute surge farming machine, and if you find one of these on spawn, you're playing in a stacked lobby, it is definitely worth carrying. And also, because they've now removed the damage multiplier of ADSing, it means it's a better gun to carry if you're only going to carry 2 guns. Previously, if you wanted to carry the Monarch pistol and a shotgun, you usually had to carry some kind of other spray weapon because it wasn't reliable enough damage hip fire. Didn't really do much structure damage, and if you hip fired without looking down sights, you didn't get the multiplier, so it was a bit weak. Now, you can hit them in the head for like 130 and then switch to your shotgun if you want to, or just run it like a shotgun at this point. With this thing with the laser on shoots dead straight and it's hitting for that much damage, this thing is now ridiculous. All right, I have to talk about what is going on with a whole bunch of pros not being able to attend global champs. Now, you probably heard this a whole bunch, there's visa issues, but what does that actually mean? Why is it happening? And what are the new teams? Because we now have Ages and Rise, a duo who didn't even qualify for the LAN, now playing at the LAN together, and it's the weirdest situation. We also have huge name pros like Vanya, the EU FNCS champion, not able to attend global champs. Now remember, Vanya and Swizzy, on top of being the EU FNCS champs, they were also supposed to be contesting Peterbot. So this has massive ramifications for the tournament. So first up, because it's being hosted in the United States, the laws around getting work visas to be able to go into the United States and compete for this much money are a lot more strict. The Global Championship last year, taking place in Copenhagen, was a lot easier around this because European countries, again, having so many other countries bordering on them, are usually a little bit more lenient and a bit easier to get working visas. So that's why it's being such an issue this year. It's not like the players were lazy. It's like the players were stupid. It's just too hard to get a visa this close. Now, you can obviously say the pros should have been working on their visa a year ago and they should have already had them. If they had any chance of making LAN, they should have organized this, but I don't think that's entirely fair. A lot of other esports don't have this issue when it comes to playing in the United States, because when they join a team, it's kind of expected they're going to play at an international event. Usually those teams will organize them a visa. Fortnite doesn't quite work like that because, again, there's no teams. A lot of them aren't signed to orgs. It's not as professional as we all know, but it doesn't really run that way. So I don't think it's fair to blame the players here. It's just a really, really unfortunate situation. Let's talk about how Ages and Rise are now playing the LAN together, because it'll probably make things make a bit more sense for how this is working. If your teammate is not able to compete at Global Championship, they did have a pool of players who were set fills that you could pick from to play with. For example, the first team to do this was Chiefs. Chiefs' duo mate Turtle was not able to attend Global Championship, so Chiefs ended up playing with the Omzo. It's all NA-based players who are already in the United States or nearby and have legal abilities to work and compete there. There's no dramas of that. So Chiefs picked up the Omzo. But we started to get some weird situations like this where Ages' teammate who picked him up ended up getting banned. So Ages was filling in for someone's teammate who wasn't able to attend, but the person he was filling in for got banned, which now left him as the player on that duo, and he has a LAN spot despite not qualifying. And Rise was picked up to play with another team because his teammate wasn't able to attend, and now Ages has been able to ask Rise to play with him, and now Rise is just playing with him. They're just going to LAN, which is ridiculous. This also means there's now one less Middle East team attending the LAN altogether. And at the same time, as much as this is crazy, if this was going to happen to any players or any team was eligible to go, I'm happy it's Rise and Ages. If you don't know, they literally missed out on qualifying last season by 1 elimination's worth of points. And it's because Mr. Savage and Mongrel keyed them in the last game while they were trying to have a pop-off performance. I'll also mention Rise and Omzo were set to win Chapter 5 Seasons 1 FNCS before they started having their internet forced off by hackers. So if any team is going to make it, I'm very happy it's Ages and Rise, and I'm happy Yomzo is now going as well. I did feel like these players deserve to go, but it's still a really weird situation for it to happen in, and it doesn't entirely make a lot of sense to me. It's better than last year when they didn't have any fills and we had Okas playing as a solo, which was just so brutal. It looks like at least they fixed that issue, but now it's creating a whole bunch of other weird issues. So what does this mean for other teams like Vanya and Swizzy? So Vanya, obviously the FNCS champion, is probably the most notable player who's not able to attend. So Swizzy now needs to pick a duo mate. Rumors were going around it was going to be Tayson. I know what you're thinking, Aussie, you just said they had to be NA-based players. Well, Tayson unfortunately actually turned down his spot as a fill player. Epic offered him the ability to be a fill player, and because he does have his US visa, he was going to be able to attend. He could have been a fill, and he turned it down. Now, Swizzy wants to play with him, and apparently they're in chats with Epic Games to try to get Tayson to take Vanya's spot. So Swizzy and Tayson would be a duo going into LAN. Now, I don't know whether this is actually happening. Obviously, a lot of these conversations are happening behind closed doors, but I believe, usually knowing Epic, if you turn down an opportunity like this, you can't take it back. So I think Swizzy is going to have to play with an NA-based player. Now, Vanya could somehow miraculously get his visa sorted before the LAN starts, but it's looking really, really rough. Now, why can't Vanya get his working visa? Again, Pixie was able to, and he's from Ukraine as well. Apparently, it looks like, according to Vanya, who actually shared the statement he got from the US Embassy, it's because there's nothing that's actually tying him back home. He doesn't have school, he doesn't have a job. Despite this clearly being his job, he's made hundreds of thousands of dollars from the game, but the way the government sees it is there's nothing to keep him from just staying inside the United States. That's why people get so touchy around this. Again, it's very political. Obviously, there's a lot of laws that go behind this. I'm not going to get into the whole discussion about this, but it's very clear that if Epic wants to run LAN events like this, doing them in NA is going to be very hard going forward. We now have 8 different teams who have been affected by these visa issues. That's 8 of 50. That is absolutely brutal when you think about how important this LAN event is supposed to be for the Fortnite community and for the players. This is life-changing money they're missing out on. Remember, it was just last year when Swizzy and Vanya again won FNCS, and because of the sanctions put on Russian players like Swizzy, they weren't able to attend the LAN event and had their LAN spot taken away. Swizzy and Vanya are absolutely cursed right now. They're being, just cheated essentially out of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's just so sad to see. So going through the other teams affected right now. So again, Swizzy looking to try to find a teammate. Gon and Quantia confirmed playing together. Gon and Knight, the Brazilians, they qualified. Knight wasn't able to get his visa, so Quantia is now being picked up as a fill. We have Ages and Rise, like I talked about, and then we have Wazzy, I don't know how to pronounce his name, sorry, WQZZI. He was supposed to be playing with Rise as his fill before Rise went to play with Ages, so he needs a new teammate now. And then we have Chiefs and Yomzo, like I talked about. The remaining fill players still on the list that could be picked up is Yapko, Mixon, Raze, Curly, Braids, and Visuals. Know what you're gonna say, Aussie? You said they're all NA players. Remember, Yapko and Mixon were just playing on NA. They are still based in the United States. technically for this purposes, for legal purposes, they are still an NA duo because they're still there. So there is a chance we could see again like Swizzy and Yapko or Swizzy and Mixon. We could have an EU contingent being represented, because when it's a big international event, when you have so many people with eyes on this, I just want to see teams playing with at least someone from their own region. It really sucks it's not their actual duo. If we saw a duo like Swizzy and Tayson, I would love to see them absolutely pop off. But then if Swizzy and Tayson do pop off, is that a little bit strange? You know, Tayson didn't qualify for the LAN and now he's playing again. I'm super excited to see the opportunity that Tayson might be able to play, but it just feels weird, man. I can see both sides of why some people are, you know, excited that some of their favorite players who they wanted to make it are now going, but it seems like obviously because the NA players, the ones who already have visas, a lot of them are already US or Canadian citizens, they're not having as many issues, where there's a whole bunch of Middle East, Brazil teams now getting cut in half, where they're just not being fairly represented at an international LAN. It's just really, really sad to see. And again, you're probably wondering, why would Epic ever run the LAN event in the United States again? The main reason why they're doing it like this is because they're actually teaming it up with the Rocket League Major. Blast, the team that runs the production and actually runs these Fortnite tournaments for the LAN events, coordinates and organizes them all, they're actually combining this. So as soon as the FNCS Global Championship ends, the next day the Rocket League Major starts. It's more economically viable, all their staff are there, all the equipment's already there, it's cheaper and it makes it easier to run. So it looks like despite all these visa issues, they might actually do this again if they want to keep doing that. So I really hope that's not the case, but I'm a little bit worried. As far as what this means for the Global Champs teams, obviously, like I talked about earlier, Swizzy might not even go to the raft anymore, meaning that Peterbot, Poyo, and Trashy and Threats have it to themselves. Now, in scrims so far, both Peterbot and Trashy have not been fighting off spawn. They've been happily splitting this POI and both walking away with insanely good loot. So if that happens, you have to think Peterbot and Poyo are the favorites to win yet again another tournament, finishing off one of the most ridiculous chapters of all time. Obviously, Swizzy could pick up a fill and still land there, but I'm just saying, if Swizzy is not playing with a teammate that he's as confident with, you don't think he'd want to go into such a chaotic spawn fight against such good teams. I mean, maybe because he can't play with his real teammate, he says, screw it, I'm sticking to my guns, I'm dropping there anyway and seeing what happens. I don't really know, but it's going to be very, very unfortunate to see how this plays out for Swizzy. We have other big teams moving around the map as well. Chap and Tini have decided to not land on Cooper and Kanata. They are now going to be landing on Vico and Flixie at the Reckless Railway. So again, the EU FNCS champs of last season, they're a very, very scary fighting team, and if we watch Vico and Flixie, Chap and Tini go at it, that is going to be one of the best spawn fights I think we've ever watched. All four of these players are ridiculous. As far as the rest of the map, again, Rise and Ages now being a duo have their drop spot, and it's one of the teams contesting them. Again, Wazzy, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, who doesn't even have a duo right now, which is looking extremely good for them. Booga and Aviv are now again uncontested. Mustache and Malabuka did decide to switch their drop spot, and they are no longer landing on Booga and Aviv, which should be very, very big for their chances of doing well. Acorn and Cold still contested by Andalex and Sato, which a lot of people are confused about. Malabuka and Mustache are going up against the OCE boys now, so they're going to be going the middle of the map, restored reels. I think I got that one right. It's not exactly the best drop on the map, but I think Malabuka and Mustache like their chances going up against Alex and Worthy over going up against Booga and Aviv. Now again, Epic Whale, Muzz, Reed, and Ritual playing out in LAN. Doomstat has been split again. Playing out in the scrims, it really hasn't been this crazy spawn fight. There's been some scuffles, there's been some skirmishes where Epic Whale and Muzz trying to push Reed and Ritual to get an extra building's worth of loot. So they're not just straight splitting it, but I feel like by the time LAN comes around, they're going to have figured out exactly where they want to go based on how these fights have gone. Because again, it's another drop spot where you don't need to fight. You can walk out with more than enough loot for two duos. There's just no point fighting another really, really good team.